Before I start tying the foam bluegill poppers, I'm going to get a couple of the heads ready. These are ones that I've punched out of my 4 layers of 2mm foam in black, yellow, black, yellow. I always like to use the black on the front of the popper, the front face. Seems like black, yellow works a little bit better. So I would take a bodkin, which is a fancy scientific name for a needle and a stick, and I'm going to start it on the side that I want to have be the face, because I can look very carefully and I can make sure it started directly in the center on that side, because you always want the hook to come out in the middle. You don't want it off to one side or the other, because then your fly will be lopsided. Then I'm going to hold it parallel, and I have found if I hold it parallel and work the needle back and forth and push on the bodkin, I can get it to come out pretty much straight and even on the back side as well. So now if I just pull the bodkin back out, that hole will kind of close up and I won't be able to put it on the hook. So that's why the candle's here. I'm going to heat the bodkin just slightly, so when I pull it back out without hitting my fingers, I will melt a very small hole completely through front to back. Now that's important because that's the channel the hook will ride in, and I'll make sure that it goes in nice and straight. So I'm going to take one more, just since I'm working at this, start it in the center, go completely through. It's not quite right, back it out and try it again until I get it right in the middle, because until you melt that hole with the hot bodkin, it's not going to matter where exactly you put it. Okay, got it through, center, front, and back. Heat it slightly, slide it out. There's my melted hole that will go on the hook. So let's tie a couple of these. So to start this out, I'm going to take my Daiichi 730. It's kind of a light wire streamer hook. You need that because you need the wide gap and a little bit longer shank that most dry fly hooks won't allow, but you don't want a real heavy hook. So we're going to build a little bit of a thread base toward the back here. Now I'm going to take a hen, basically a hen cape, or the back scraps of a hen cape that I've dyed yellow, and that's going to be in another video. I'm going to pull out a couple feathers from about the same area. I want to get them size matching pretty close. So I'll just pull 2 of those out. Now, extra one there. I'm only going to use about that much of the feather for little kicker legs. So I'm going to take those, and I, on another set here, pulled most of the material off and just left, there's actually 2 little feathers there. I've matched them as far as where the fibers start and where the hackle stems start. These are going to be my kicky legs for the back. Now, another way to tie this fly is with a short piece of marabou back there, which if you don't have hackles like this, hen hackles, hen saddles, marabou works just fine. It's not as mobile and enticing looking to me as having little kicky legs, but if you've got the materials, tie it with a little marabou so you can try it out. Okay, I'm just going to lay this in across the top of the hook and start to wrap over that stem. Kind of pull it up to where I get the fiber starting there. And that laid pretty nice down parallel to the hook shank. I'm going to take the other matching hen feather, lay it across the top, wrap it in. I'm going to wrap, of course, to the same place on the shank so they're matching. And if I'm lucky, that way they'll be parallel and nice little set of kicky legs out the back. I'm going to get rid of these stems because I don't want those laying down building up the hook shank at this point. I'll wrap over what I left in there of those. Now I'm going to use the popper head as a guide for the length of the space of the hook shank I need to leave here. I need to leave enough room on this hook for that popper head. So right now you can see it, the stems end that I tied in there, and right about the back of where the popper head would fit. So I'm going to use where the hook is hanging, right, or where the thread is hanging from right now, as my guide for my next little bit of hackle. I don't want to go too far forward or I won't have room for my popper head. So now I'm going to take a black hackle. This is from a natural black hen. You can tell because of the shine on that. It's not dyed. It's got a really pretty iridescence to it, which I think helps on flies. And I'm just going to pull out one small hen hackle. I don't want huge hackle on this. I just want it to be about the gap of the hook. I'm going to prepare this hackle by going to where the real fuzzy stuff starts and stripping it clean, leaving a stem there that I'll be able to work with. And I'm also going to flare it back a ways, get those hackles standing up, and I'm going to cut that little bit off the front here that I'm not really needing in the wrap. So when I tie it in, I've got something to tie it in by, but that extra fiber is not going to build up bulk. So I'm going to go back here to the place where the yellow hackle's tied in, wrap it in securely there, and again I'm going to go back up to the spot I had figured here for my head to go on. Make sure I leave myself plenty of room there for that head. I'm going to take some hackle pliers and I'm going to wrap this hackle. I'm going to fold it back, try to get it to go more toward the back, as much toward the back as possible. I'm going to start and carefully wrap. And you don't want to hit this on the point of the hook, because if you do, it usually breaks your feather, which means you just untie that part and wrap in a new one. So let's see what we can get it here without breaking it loose. And I'm just slowly working my way up toward that mark on the that I have pictured on in my mind on the hook shank, where I can only go so far. Right there to where that hackle stem from the yellow one's ended is where I had figured that I can't take any more space to that, or I'll take up head space. Okay, I'm just going to go over that a few times, break it off. Now, this hackle, a lot of times a toothbrush works really well, or a little paintbrush. Just kind of go over those and kind of fluff them out a little bit so they don't get matted down back in there. And if we did it right, we'll leave ourselves room for the head of the fly to go on. Now, what we're going to do is we're just going to make a good coating of thread. And for these small flies, a small coating of thread will work. When I go to the bigger frog pattern, I will show you a different way to do this. That's the number 4 video in this series, coming up shortly. Okay, we've got a good coating of thread on there. I'm going to put a couple half hitches in it and clip it off. While the camera was off, I just mixed together a little bit of 30-minute epoxy on a little bag. I don't use 5-minute because it dries pretty quick, and I like to do these flies in batches of about half a dozen or so. So I've got the heads prepared and I've got some tied. So for this one here, I'll do it on the vise. I'm just going to put a little bit of the 30-minute epoxy right behind the eye of the hook. Then all you have to do is take one of your popper heads, and I like to have the black in front. That way, even after this yellow, there's more black and more yellow. Find the hole in the back that I melted in there, and just start and twist it on. And by twisting, you're spreading that epoxy all around the hook shank and all around the inside of the fly head there. So then we're just going to look toward the front, and we're just going to turn the head until it's centered up very nicely so it won't spin when I cast. So there it is. 30 minutes or so, that one will be ready to fish. Now we just take other ones that I've also tied, put the little bit of epoxy on them, get the back end on there, spin it, and like I say, half a dozen or so at a time is about what seems to work really well for me. So we'll get that one on there, fluffing back out. That one's ready to go, and we just continue with flies we got tied until we're all out of them. One more quick tip on this fly. When you use a streamer hook, it doesn't have a huge gap. So there are times when if you get the head on it and it's all dried and everything, this one's still wet, but when it's all dry, you can see that maybe there's not as much gap there you'd like between the back of the popper head and the hook point. So strictly for the purposes of hooking fish, which is the main goal, we can go back in and just make a little flat. That'll open up that hook point tremendously, and you'll find you get a lot more hookups, but it'll also stay relatively weedless because of the side of the head.